The wind was cold and sharp on Colony T9. It sliced through Zarela's thin cloak like blades, her arms wrapped tightly around her small daughter. Lemmy, who coughed weakly into her shoulder. Snow covered everything. The metal roads, the broken signs, and the lonely houses that stood far from one another. This colony was built by humans long after the war, and aliens like her were not welcome. Zarela had knocked on 12 doors that day. 12 rejections, 12 harsh faces, or silent ones that refused to even open the door. "Please," she had whispered at the last one, her voice shaking. "Just a little food for my child." But the man inside didn't even answer. The door hissed shut before she could say more, and the lights inside turned off. Lemmy was burning. With fever, her small face pale, her breathing shallow, and her eyes barely open. Zarela stumbled through the snow again, her bare feet numb, her heart heavy. She had been strong once, a trained warrior for her people. But today, she was only a mother begging for kindness. She had not eaten in 2 days, not since she gave her last ration to Lemmy. Her stomach ached. But she didn't care about herself anymore, only her daughter. The 13th house stood near the edge of the colony, quiet and a little damaged. Smoke rose slowly from the chimney, and a light glowed inside. Zarela stopped and looked at it. She was afraid, but she had no other choice. Her knees were shaking as she carried Lemmy closer, snow rising around her legs like waves of ice. She knocked on the door gently at first, then harder, and then again. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Please, show mercy. My child is sick." There was silence, long and deep. Only the wind answered, pushing her hair across her face and biting her skin. She was about to turn away, ready to walk into the cold and die holding her child, when the door slowly creaked. Open, a human man stood there, tall, wearing a thick jacket, a welding mask hanging by his side. His face looked tired but not cruel. He said nothing, just looked at the mother and child in front of him. Zarela quickly stepped back, expecting another rejection, maybe even anger. She bowed her head. "I'm sorry. I'll leave. She's dying." Then the man did something she didn't expect. He stepped aside. The light from his home poured out into the snow, warm and golden, and he said quietly, "Come in." Zarela didn't move at first. She thought it was a trick. But then Lemmy let out a soft whimper, and her body went limp in her arms without thinking. Zarela stepped into the house. Warmth hit her like fire. Her frozen fingers stung as heat returned to them. The man shut the door behind her, locking out the cold. "Lay her down there," he said, pointing to a couch by the heater. Zarela carefully placed Lemmy on the couch, her daughter's eyes fluttering but still open. She knelt beside her, brushing the snow off her cheeks, whispering, "You're safe now, my love." The man disappeared into another room and returned with a blanket and a metal cup filled with warm liquid. He handed it to Zarela without a word. She took it with shaking hands, her eyes wide. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at her, and then at the child, then simply said, "You knocked on the right door." Zarela sat there, holding the cup, not sure if she should drink it. She had been betrayed before, hurt before, but this felt different. The house was small. Tools hung on the walls. Old machines stood in the corner, half-built or broken. It smelled like oil and metal, but it was safe and it was warm. Lemmy was breathing easier already, her fingers curled around the edge of the blanket. Tears welled up in Zarela's eyes, not because of sadness, but because this was the first kindness anyone had shown them in weeks. The man didn't ask for her name, or where she came from, or why she was there. He just sat down across the room near the heater and went back to fixing a broken drone with quiet hands. Zarela looked at him, wondering what kind of human he was, why he had opened his door when 12 others had not. Outside, the wind howled louder, shaking the windows. But inside that house, in that small moment, Zarela knew she and her daughter had been given something precious. Not just warmth, not just food, but hope. She whispered again, more to herself this time. The 13th door was different. Zarela sat quietly beside the heater. Her daughter Lemmy sleeping on the couch, wrapped in a thick human blanket. Steam rose from the cup in her hands, but she hadn't drunk much, her body still tense. Unsure if this was safety or just a pause before danger. The human man hadn't spoken again since he told her to come in. He worked silently at a metal table, repairing a small drone with focused eyes and careful hands. His movements were slow but skilled. Like someone used to being alone, Zarela studied him from the corner of her eye. His hair was short and messy, with a small scar running above his right eyebrow. He wasn't young, but not too old either. Maybe in his late 30s, his face was hard, but not cruel. She tried to guess what kind of man he was. A soldier, a mechanic, or maybe a farmer who got tired of wars and noise and chose this lonely colony instead. When Lemmy coughed in her sleep, Zarela flinched, ready to beg again, ready to shield her child from anger or threats. But the man simply looked up, stood, and walked over to the stove. He returned with a small bowl of soup, placed it on the table near her, and said, "She needs to eat something when she wakes." Zarela blinked, her voice soft and uncertain. "Why are you helping us?" The man looked at her for a long moment, then gave a small shrug. "Someone helped me once," he said, and went back to his work. That was it. No long story, no questions, no accusations, just that simple reason. Zarela looked down at her daughter, feeling a strange mix of relief and fear. She didn't know if this was a trap, or if this man truly had a heart unlike the others. She remembered the other 12 doors, how some people had shouted at her. Some threw trash, and others simply acted like she didn't exist. But this man, the 13th one, he hadn't asked for payment, hadn't yelled, hadn't even hesitated much. He just opened the door. Her mind didn't understand it, but her heart felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. A thread of trust. "You don't even know our names," Shay said quietly. "You don't know mine either," he replied. Without looking up, she gave a soft smile. "The first in many weeks. I'm Zarela. And this is my daughter Lemmy." The man nodded. "Jonas," he said. "Just Jonas." It was a small thing, but saying names made the room feel less like a stranger's house and more like something close to home. That night, Jonas showed her where she and Lemmy could sleep, a small spare room with an old bed, some dusty shelves, and a heater that hummed low in the corner. Zarela tucked Lemmy in, brushing the little girl's soft hair and whispering gentle words in her native tongue. The child smiled in her sleep, the warmth already working its magic. On her weak body, Zarela sat on the edge of the bed, watching her child, wondering if she should run in the morning or stay just one more night. In the other room, Jonas fixed another drone, one with a bent wing and a cracked lens. His hands moved, without thought. But his mind kept drifting back to the girl and her mother. He remembered the war, remembered the screams and the fire, remembered losing people he cared about. And yet, when he saw that girl in the snow, it didn't feel like the past. It felt like a choice, not about politics or races or enemies. Just a simple question. Would he be the 13th door, that slammed door, the one that stayed open? He chose the second. In the middle of the night, Zarela woke up suddenly. Not from danger, but from silence. Real silence. The kind that only comes when you're finally not afraid. She looked at Lemmy, breathing softly, a little color back in her cheeks, and she knew something had changed, not just outside, but inside her heart too. This man, this human, was different. She tiptoed to the kitchen and found Jonas still awake, sipping something from a metal mug. He didn't look surprised too. "See her. Can I help you with anything?" She asked, almost whispering. He shook his head. You don't owe me anything, he said. I want to. She replied, you gave us life again. Jonas looked at her, eyes tired but kind. You kept her alive until now. That wasn't easy, Zarela. Lowered her gaze, remembering the hunger, the cold, the running, the begging, the 12 doors. And the bruises from those who said no. But we wouldn't have made it past tonight, she said. He nodded slowly. Then added, sleep, tomorrow will be better. Zarela returned to the room. But her heart was no longer full of fear. Instead, it carried a spark, not love, not yet, but something that comes before it. A quiet respect, a quiet hope. Outside, the snow fell gently, covering the past in white. Inside, the 13th door remained open. Zarela woke to the soft hum of the heater and the faint smell of something warm cooking in the air. She sat up slowly, blinking in the dim light. Her back sore from the old mattress, but her heart calmer than before. Lemmy was still sleeping, wrapped tightly in the blanket Jonas had given them. Her breathing was deeper now, stronger, her skin a little pink instead of pale white. Zarela touched her daughter's forehead, and for the first time in days. It wasn't burning with fever, she whispered. Thank you. Though no one was in the room to hear it, she stepped out quietly, not wanting to wake Lemmy. The house was still, filled with a calm she wasn't used to. She walked slowly into the kitchen and found Jonas sitting at the table, working on another broken device. A plate of bread and a steaming bowl, already waiting for her. Zarela paused at the doorway, unsure, her hands twitching, her feet cold on the floor. This kindness still felt dangerous, like it might disappear if she breathed too loudly. Jonas looked up briefly, then back at his work. Eat, he said simply. You need strength. She moved toward the table, hesitating before sitting. Why are you helping us? She asked again, softly. Jonas didn't look up this time. I told you, he said, because someone helped me. But I'm not human, she said. We were your enemy. You're a mother. Jonas replied, and she's a child, Zarela. Ate slowly, each bite filling her stomach and making her eyes sting with unshed tears. Not from pain, but from the shock of safety. Still, her mind was full of doubts. In her world, kindness always had a price. Food meant service, shelter meant silence. A man's help meant giving something in return. She studied Jonas carefully, waiting for the moment he'd change, waiting for the request. The command, the hidden deal. Do you want something from me? She finally asked, voice low. Jonas paused. Setting down his tool, he looked at her for a long time. His eyes not angry, not cold, just tired. I want peace, he said. That's all. Zarela didn't understand. No one wanted just peace. Anymore, you could have turned us away, she whispered. You could have gotten money for handing us over? He nodded. I could have. Then why not? Jonas leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling like he was looking far away. During the war, my brother died in a border attack. He said, they told me it was your kind who did it. Zarela lowered her gaze, shame twisting in her chest. But when I found a wounded alien child in the rubble, I helped her, Jonas continued. Her mother was gone, but she survived. He looked at Zarela again. She looked at me the same way you're looking at me now, with fear. She asked, with confusion. He said, because she didn't expect kindness. Zarela sat silently, her food growing cold, her heart aching. She understood that feeling deeply. You remind me of her. Jonas said softly, and your daughter. Reminds me of what I lost. Zarela felt her throat tighten. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Where is that child now? Jonas gave a small smile. She grew up, left the planet, joined a peacekeeper fleet. Zarela felt something shift inside her. Not all humans were the same, just like not all aliens were cruel. Later that day, while Lemmy rested, Zarela helped Jonas clean up around the house, folding old clothes, sweeping dust, sorting tools. She moved with care, but Jonas didn't stop her, didn't question her, didn't expect anything more than what she gave. When she burned her hand lightly on a hot metal tool, Jonas rushed over, pulled her hand into his, and ran it under water, gently dabbing it with cream. Their eyes met, and in that short moment, Zarela saw something she hadn't seen in a long time. Not desire, not pity, but respect. She pulled her hand back quickly, her cheeks warm. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't mention it," Jonas replied, turning back to his work. That night, Lemmy sat up and asked for food. Zarela nearly cried as she fed her slowly. Watching her child's strength return one spoon at a time, Lemmy looked around the house, then whispered, "Are we safe now?" Zarela looked at Jonas through the doorway. He sat quietly by the fire, reading an old book, the flames dancing in his eyes. "Yes," Zarela said, "for now. I think we are." Lemmy gave a sleepy smile and lay down again, her hand in her mother's. In the silence that followed, Zarela sat beside the fire too, a question still in her heart. Maybe Jonas truly wanted nothing in return, but she still wondered, could anyone really be this kind? Or was the price just waiting to be revealed? The sun rose slowly over the frozen colony, casting a pale light through the frosted window of Jonas's home. Inside, the warmth of the heater pushed back the cold, but it couldn't melt the weight. In Zarela's heart, she stood quietly at the kitchen sink, watching Lemmy eat soup with both hands cupped around the bowl. The child looked better, her cheeks rounder, her eyes no longer dull. She smiled more now, and even laughed once at a joke Jonas made about his rusty toaster exploding last week. But Zarela didn't smile easily, even when Jonas was kind, even when her daughter slept safely, even when her own body felt strength returning. There was a wall inside her, built from years of hiding, running, begging, and betrayal. That wall didn't break just because one man gave her a blanket and a meal. Jonas noticed her silence, but didn't push her to speak. He worked on his machines during the day, fixed drones and scanners for the locals who came by and dropped off broken tech without asking questions. No one stayed long, and no one came inside. Zarela helped where she could, folding clothes, fixing small tiers and jackets, washing dishes, caring for Lemmy, but she always felt the question in the air. How long could they stay? One afternoon, while Lemmy napped and Jonas cleaned the dust off an old solar charger, Zarela finally spoke, her voice low. "You said someone helped you during the war." Jonas nodded slowly. "A girl from the other side? Did she look like me?" "A little, same eyes," he said. "Same fear." Zarela sat down across from him, her fingers tracing the wood grain on the table. "I wasn't always like this," she whispered. "I was trained as a scout for the thirteenth fleet." Jonas didn't react, just listened. "I followed orders, tracked humans across planets, marked targets for drones," she said, her voice bitter. "I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting my people." She paused, looking away, then added, "until they told me to mark a hospital." Jonas's eyes lifted at that, but he stayed quiet. "I refused." Zarela continued, her hands clenched. "They called me a traitor, stripped my rank, chased me like a criminal. I took Lemmy and ran. I've been running ever since." The silence between them grew heavy, like dust settling after a storm. Jonas finally spoke. "You still carry it." Zarela nodded. "The guilt, the fear, the shame." He looked at her hands. Small scars ran across her knuckles and palms, some old, some fresh. "You're not the only one with scars," Jonas said, pulling up his sleeve. There, burned into the flesh of his forearm, was an old brand, not from war, but from fire. The skin twisted in a pattern that looked like claws. "Pirates raided my old outpost before I came here," he explained. "They left me for dead. Zarela stared at it, her heart pounding, and yet, you still helped me. He smiled faintly. Pain teaches us two things, Zarela, to hate, or to understand. Outside, a transport drone buzzed past the window. Heading toward the center of the colony, Zarela's gaze followed it, her mind darkening again. They won't let us stay forever, she said. Someone saw me enter your house, I know. Jonas replied calmly. I should leave, she whispered. Before they come knocking, no, he said. Firmer this time. This is my home, and you are my guests. Zarela shook her head. You'll be punished. They'll call you a sympathizer. Or worse. Jonas stood, walked to the shelf, and pulled down a small, dusty datapad. He handed it to her. This is my old ID from the fleet, he said. Before I retired, Zarela looked at the screen, blinking in surprise. You were a soldier. A pilot? He nodded. I left when I realized the war wasn't ending. Just changing names, her lips parted. So we were enemies. We were tools. He corrected gently, used by leaders who never bled. A knock at the door made. Both of them freeze. Zarela jumped to her feet, pulling Lemmy close behind the couch. Jonas walked to the door and opened it slightly, keeping his body between the visitor and the room. Outside stood a colony officer, tall, armored, and sharp-eyed. His voice cold. You've got company, Jonas, I noticed. Jonas said dryly. They're not registered, the officer said. You know the rules. They're not staying. Jonas lied smoothly. They're just warming up. The officer looked past him, but saw nothing. You're a good man, Jonas. Don't make the wrong choice now. The door closed slowly, the tension hanging in the air like smoke. Zarela stepped out slowly. He'll be back. Jonas nodded. Let him. We'll be ready that night. Jonas showed Zarela a hidden hatch in the floor, a small cellar where they could hide if needed. Just in case, Zarela stood at the top of the steps, watching him light a lantern below. You don't have to do this, she said. You could send us away. I could, he agreed, but then I wouldn't be me. The next morning, the wind blew stronger across the colony. The snow carried dust this time, turning the sky gray and heavy inside Jonas's home. The warmth still fought back the cold, but something had changed in the air. Jonas fixed the last drone of the week and placed it by the door. A customer would collect it soon, but he wasn't focused on machines anymore. He kept looking at the front window, eyes scanning the street, jaw tight. Zarela noticed it. She felt the pressure too. The knock from yesterday still echoed in her mind. Lemmy stayed close to her mother's leg, holding a soft cloth Jonas had. Given her to play with, they'll come again, Zarela said, not as a guess, but a truth. Jonas didn't answer, just nodded once. He handed her a folded piece of cloth, old but clean. You can wrap this around your head. He said, make it less obvious you're not from here. Zarela took it slowly, her hands trembling. You're risking too much. I'm just being human, Jonas replied. But outside, not everyone shared his view. Word had spread across the settlement. Someone had taken in an alien, not just any alien, but one from the thirteenth race, the same race that once bombed outposts and slaughtered squads. Old wounds ran deep. People gathered near the supply station, whispering, pointing toward Jonas's side of town. Someone threw a bottle at his fence in the night. It shattered in the snow, the smell of old fuel still lingering in the air. By midday, 3 men approached Jonas's door. Heavy coats, gloves with worn knuckles, boots that stomped like they owned the ground. Jonas stepped out before they could knock, his posture calm, his eyes sharp. You've got visitors, the first man said, his voice cold. I see that. Jonas replied, you know why we're here. Another added, we all know what's hiding in there. Jonas didn't blink. She's a mother with a sick child. She's a killer's breed. The first man snapped, and she doesn't belong on human soil. Jonas crossed his arms. This is my land, and under colony law, I decide who crosses my door. You're protecting the enemy, the third man growled. You're no better than a traitor inside the house. Zarela stood frozen near the curtain, hearing every word. Lemmy clutched her leg, whispering, "Are they going to take us?" Zarela didn't answer. Her eyes locked on Jonas through the gap. He didn't move from his spot, didn't raise his voice, didn't show fear. "I lost family in the war," Jonas said, "but I refuse to live with hate. She'll bring danger to us all." One man spat. "What if others come looking for her?" Jonas finally stepped forward, his voice lower now, dead serious. "You've all known me for years. I fixed your machines, your heaters, your lights. I helped build this place when no one else would. They said nothing. I don't ask for favors," Jonas continued. "But today I ask for one thing: walk away." The three men looked at each other, unsure, then slowly turned and left. But the silence they left behind was full of warning. Jonas stepped back inside, locked the door, and exhaled slowly. Zarela stood there, her eyes wide, her body tense. "You shouldn't have defended me. I'll do it again if I have to." He said, "You'll lose everything," she whispered. "They'll report you, or worse." Jonas walked past her, checking the lock again, then let them, he muttered. That night, Zarela couldn't sleep. She sat by the window while Lemmy snored softly beside her. The moonlight shone on the snow outside, and in her heart, a storm was rising. She had to make a choice. She couldn't let Jonas suffer because of her. She had brought danger to his door. His kindness had already cost him too much. By morning, she had decided. She packed a small bag, wrapped Lemmy in layers, and crept to the front door. Jonas was asleep on the couch, one arm over his face. Tired from the fight, Zarela stood there, one hand on the doorknob, the other clutching her daughter to her chest. "I'll go before they take everything from you," she whispered in her native tongue. But before she could open the door, Jonas spoke behind her. "Don't." She froze. "I was a soldier once," Jonas said, not moving. "I've lost people. I've seen war, and I've known fear." Zarela turned slowly, tears running down her cheeks. "Then why risk yourself for me?" He sat up, his voice firm, "Because no one risked themselves for me when I needed it." She shook her head. "You owe me nothing, and yet I give," he said. "Because that's what makes us human." Zarela walked back to the couch. Lemmy still asleep. She looked into Jonas's tired eyes and saw something powerful. Not love, not yet, but loyalty, a bond forged not by race or duty or gain, but by choice, by heart. The next time someone came to knock, they would both stand together. Because Jonas had already chosen, he was the 13th door. And it was staying open, that night. The wind didn't howl, it whispered of anger, of coming trouble. Zarela couldn't sleep, not with the way Jonas paced the house, checking every window, every door, every tool he could use if something happened. He didn't speak much, but his eyes said everything. She understood. Danger was near. Lemmy slept peacefully in the back room, unaware of the fire rising outside. Unaware of the fear sitting heavy in her mother's chest, Zarela tried to stay calm. But her fingers shook as she held a small kitchen knife. It wasn't a real weapon, not like what she used to carry in her scout days, but it was all she had now. Jonas paused near the front window. The snow outside looked like ash under the dim lights. He saw shadows moving in the distance, slow and careful, not animals, not wanderers, people. "They're here," he said quietly. Zarela stood beside him. "What will they do?" "I don't know," Jonas replied, "but they don't want to talk." A moment later, the first rock hit the side of the house, then another. Then came a glass bottle lit with fire. It crashed against the outer wall. Flames spreading fast, lighting up the night in orange and red. Zarela gasped. They want to burn us alive. Jonas grabbed a blanket, soaked it in water, and threw it over the flames, his boots crushing snow as he moved fast. His face glowing with firelight, sweat on his forehead. Not from heat, but from the fight. Zarela rushed with a bucket, helping him put out the fire before it reached the inside. Smoke filled the air. Lemmy cried from the back, calling out for her mother. Jonas ran back in, coughing. We need to hide her. Zarela scooped up Lemmy and ran to the hidden cellar hatch, gently placing her inside. Stay down no matter what, she whispered. Don't come out until I say. Lemmy sobbed, but nodded. The hatch closed, the lock clicked, and silence took her place. Jonas grabbed a metal rod from his workbench, his eyes scanning the door. If they break in, run through the back window and leave you. Zarela asked sharply. You have a child, Jonas said. You're her whole world. And you're the reason we're still breathing. She said back, I won't leave you. There was a loud bang at the front door, wood cracking. Jonas stood firm. Another bang, louder this time. Then a voice shouted, Give her up, Jonas, or we take everything. He didn't move. Zarela took her place beside him, empty hands, but full heart. You should have stayed out of this. Another voice said, This isn't your fight. Jonas raised his voice, strong and deep. It became my fight the moment I opened that door. They didn't like that answer. The third bang broke the lock. The door flew open, and 3 men stormed in, faces covered with scarves, eyes burning. With hate, the first man swung a pipe toward Jonas, but Jonas blocked it with his rod. The sound of metal hitting metal rang through the room. Zarela moved fast, faster than they expected. Grabbing the attacker's arm and twisting it hard, he cried out, dropping the pipe. She grabbed it and stood between Jonas and the others, her hands shaking, but her eyes locked in warrior focus. You'll have to go through me, she growled. The second man lunged, but Jonas stepped forward and punched him hard in the stomach, sending him stumbling back into the wall. The third raised a torch, yelling, You chose the wrong side. Traitor. Jonas didn't flinch. I chose the right one. The torch came down, but before it landed, a loud roar filled the sky. A spotlight cut through the roof window, bright and blinding. An alien ship hovered above the house, sleek, silent, silver blue with markings from the thirteenth rebels. The peaceful ones? Zarela's eyes widened. They found me. The ship sent a pulse through the ground, shaking the floor. The 3 attackers froze, staring up in fear. From the sky came a voice, calm but loud. Zarela, are you alive? Yes. She shouted back, but I'm not leaving without him. The attackers ran out into the snow, afraid of what else might come from above. Jonas turned to Zarela, breathing hard, hands bleeding from cuts. Friends of yours? Used to be, she replied. They were rebels, hiding from the war like me. They must have picked up Lemmy's signal. Jonas looked surprised. She called for help. She's smarter than both of us. Zarela smiled faintly. The ship landed quietly nearby, its hatch opening with a soft hiss. But Zarela didn't move. I'm not going, she said. Not without you. Jonas stared at her, shocked. You have a ship. A way out? I have a home, she said, looking at him. And it's here where the 13th door opened. Snow fell softly the next morning, quiet and clean. Like the night of fire and fear had been just a bad dream, but it wasn't. The burn marks on the wall, the cracked front door, and the broken tools on the floor told the truth. Jonas stood outside. His house, arms crossed, coat zipped up against the cold. Beside him stood Zarela, holding Lemmy's small hand, and behind them hovered the thirteenth rebel ship. Silent, waiting, more people had gathered now. Not with fire or weapons, but with curiosity and whispers. They had seen the ship arrive, had seen the attackers run, had heard the sound of something bigger than hate in the sky. Jonas didn't speak first. Zarela did. She stepped forward, her voice steady, though her heart still trembled. I came here with nothing but fear. I knocked on 12 doors, and no. One opened. Her eyes moved from face to face, some familiar, some hard, some ashamed. Only one door opened, she said, the 13th. A child peeked out from behind a man's leg, staring at the alien woman with wide eyes. Not in fear, but in wonder. I'm not here to bring war, Zarela continued. I ran from it. I wanted peace, for myself, and for my daughter. Some people looked away. Others stepped back, unsure. Then Jonas spoke. She didn't bring trouble here. He said, we did. By turning our backs on mercy, the silence was thick. You all know me, he said. I built this home with my hands. Fixed your machines, gave you shelter when storms came. He pointed to Zarela. And when she knocked on my door, I did what every one of you should have done. A woman from the crowd finally asked, is she staying? Zarela looked at Jonas. He looked back at her. Yes, he said, she's staying, and the ship. Another man asked. The rebel pilot stepped forward, his hands raised, showing no weapons. We're not here to fight, he said. We came for her safety. And we'll leave if she chooses to stay. Zarela turned to the pilot. Tell them. I'm not going back. I'm building a life here. The pilot hesitated, then nodded once. Then I'll deliver your message. He turned, boarded the ship, and within minutes, it rose into the sky and vanished into the clouds, leaving nothing behind but wind and silence. Inside the house, Lemmy helped Jonas bandage his hands, her small fingers working with care. You got hurt because of us, she said quietly. Jonas smiled. Sometimes you get hurt for things that matter. She blinked. Do we matter? He looked at her with warmth in his eyes. More than you know. Zarela stood in the doorway, watching them, her heart full in a way she didn't understand yet. It wasn't love exactly, not the kind that needed to be spoken, but it was something strong, something real. Later that day, Jonas began repairing the damaged wall. Zarela helped him, handing tools, sweeping ash, fixing what had been broken. No one else came to help. But no one came to stop them either, and that, in its own way, was progress. As the sun dipped low, the orange light touched the roof, the snow sparkled, and Lemmy laughed as she built a small snow creature near the steps. Zarela sat beside Jonas on the front bench, both tired but peaceful. She smiles more now, Jonas said. She feels safe, Zarela replied. So do I. He turned his head slightly. You know, when I opened the door, I didn't know why. I do, Zarela said. You still had a heart. He chuckled softly. That's dangerous these days. Maybe, she said. But it saved us. They sat in silence for a while, watching the snow fall again, light and soft like a new beginning. Zarela leaned her head gently on Jonas's shoulder, and he didn't move away. Inside, the fire crackled. Outside, the wind was quiet. And above, the stars began to show. Lemmy ran up the steps, holding her snow creature proudly. Look, she said. He has 2 eyes and 1 horn. Jonas laughed. Just like some of my old friends, Zarela smiled wide, her eyes full of warmth. He'll fit right in. Jonas looked at the front door. The same one that had once opened for a stranger, a child, and a cry for mercy. Now, it's open to something more. A home, a family, a future. And as the stars sparkled brighter above the snowy colony, Zarela whispered the words that lived in her heart. From the moment that door opened, the first 12 doors shut us out. She said softly, but the 13th gave us everything.